What's up, you guys? It's Coach Gab here from City Sweat Club, standing with Amanda Treppa, the leading force and powerhouse representing here in Michigan for End Workplace Abuse and the Workplace Psychological Safety Act, a bill that we're looking to introduce here at Spirit Plaza next weekend, the rally campaign, and an overall wellness initiative right here in Spirit Plaza. Amanda, I'll let you talk more about it.
Sure. So next Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., as Coach Gab said, here behind us in Spirit Plaza. We're going to have an amazing event. We're going to have a boxing-inspired hit class taught by Coach Gab with the entire theme being let's knock out workplace abuse. Don't forget to bring your own mat. Afterwards, you can recover in one of the Calder mobile tubs, as well as participate in the City Sweat Club raffle and more.
Yes, can't wait to bring the Active Recovery Challenge right here to Spirit Plaza in the heart of Detroit. It's been one of our biggest hits in the Sweat Club. You get it? Hits. I got all the jokes and all the moves for you next Sunday. Looking forward to having you all out. Come and see us.
More than 20 states, those here in light purple, have active End Workplace Abuse chapters, advocating to get the Workplace Psychological Safety Act passed in their state. Michigan is led by EWA Bill Co-Director Amanda Treppa, whose search for a sponsor is getting closer to identifying a legislator or two or more who will fight with us to protect employees.
One of the things that I love, Amanda, is I have met some incredible people through End Workplace Abuse. Who knew that through our trauma and the tragedy of that experience, that somehow we would get to the other side and to be in community with like-minded people who are on the same agenda, which is to advocate for psychologically safe workplaces. I'm just so honored to have you on the show. I have been watching you from afar, doing your thing, trying to make it happen in your state. Let's just start from the very beginning. Talk about, if you don't mind, your experience with workplace abuse. How did it begin? What happened?
Sure. And thank you. It's been great watching you from afar. And I'm so humbled and honored to be in your energy and your presence. From the very beginning, I mean, I've had a very nice career. I've lived out on the East Coast, did a lot of acting in New York. And through wanting, honestly, a stable job, I found my way into corporate America more so and into the fitness industry. And was just an instructor, but worked my way into management because when you have leadership skills, they grab that right instantaneously. And it was really great.
Like, she's good. She's good.
Yeah. And she has ideas and obviously cares and was really successful at one. Then I made it to what I thought was like the mecca of, luxury fitness of Equinox and really enjoyed my time in New York City. But then COVID hit, pandemic, city shut down. I transferred out into Westchester and Connecticut area because it opened before New York City did. And with that came what I thought was going to be the best time of my life. I got a promotion and this is it. But along the way in that journey, I had new supervisors who were not the same supervisors I had in the city. Didn't really go by the book. Along, I guess you would say, HR lines or rules or expectations, did their own thing. And I quickly discovered someone who I thought was going to be a mentor and really care was the opposite. And it put me into a back and forth internally, professionally, personally, that I have never been in my entire existence. And on the other side of it, I've learned a term that I'd like to bring in from the beginning, though, now called workplace grooming, which I did not know was a thing. Obviously, it's really hard to say it and to hear it.
I'm having a visceral reaction because now I can look back in my experience and see exactly the same thing where they were grooming me to be complicit in accepting how they treated me.
Exactly.
That is so, when you think about it, like that's just so sinister, don't you think? It's to know that there are people who are literally setting you up so that you will not only just accept their horrible, unconscionable behavior, but to be complicit in allowing that act to continue without really knowing it. You don't know that that's what you're doing.
No, you have no idea. And, what I thought was just, I have to say first, coming out of the pandemic, obviously we were all traumatized from that, not a COVID. So me moving to a new area, traumatized, leaving the city, desperate. That desperation is always key, right? So I didn't know what was happening because I was so desperate for a job again, desperate to be working again and really feel safe. I was looking to feel safe. trauma bonds, all of that.
Sweet.
And that person really knew how to latch on. They really did, because
Mm.
as I can look back now, because it's almost 2 years ago. Next month will be 2 years. I was fired after my supervisor and I came to a head. And the organization was like, you have to go, but you can go teach and work in one of our other areas around the country. Even though I was like, this is home. Why would I want to leave home? And this isn't fair. Um, but I didn't understand why they would open up to me or why certain things were happening. I just thought, okay, I guess this is part of it. Until they really started to demonstrate another side of themselves after I got my promotion, actually, because part of that grooming was put into the promotion, I have realized. And I saw how they felt about colleagues of mine, um, terrible things they would say. And I became fearful because it was, how do I make this situation safe where I please them and keep my job, don't step on any toes, and
Right.
also don't look
Still be full
crazy.
of integrity. Right. And also still be full of integrity as well, because you're back and forth. You're like, wait a minute, but if I don't say something, then again, I'm being complicit in allowing this behavior to continue, not just towards myself, but even other people, as they're talking and denigrating other people within the organization.
Right. And I will tell you that integral part is something I've actually had to really own. And part of why I also wanted to speak on this in particular is I'm
Mm.
assisting a couple people in their current lawsuits, and I had to give evidence I only possess, literally, I only have, to them. That definitely proves that the sinister side exists. But at
Mm.
first I didn't. And I have made amends and apologized to those people for not letting my integrity bubble up sooner. Um, Granted, I was trying to survive. I've tried to give a little grace, but now on the healed side, I will never let myself not be ruled by integrity first ever again. And the other side of it is I'll never be able to be manipulated like that ever again. So no, it's really hard because I didn't have some of the integrity. I definitely ate a lot and just sat there and thought about what I needed, what I wanted.
Well, yeah, the whole time you're thinking, if I say something, this is going to be, I'll be retaliated against. And I believe that companies and, managers and supervisors, HR departments, they're using money as the bait every single day. That paycheck is the bait to get people to comply and to not be full of integrity and to turn a blind eye to what they see, because at the end of the day, it's all about money, and we need money to live. Like we and they know it, which is why they use it against us.
And exactly. And for me, I was pregnant at the time. So for
Mm.
me, speaking up wasn't an option. I kept my head down through my pregnancy really, really well. I had an outstanding performance review as I left for maternity leave. And things happened during my maternity leave with that same supervisor reaching out to me, us having conversations almost as if we were friends again, per se. And then the moment I came back to work, HR called me in, and that's when the crazy really took a turn, because
Mm.
my daughter had been born by then, which was great because
Mm.
we're off to the races. I had nothing to lose. So I really pushed back and I said, this was retaliatory, all of this that's happening. And they didn't care. Just that's it. They didn't care. And I don't know what had been said while I was on maternity leave, but what I can gather is really well plotted, really thoroughly done to make me look like I was going to come back and be nuts. And, I got to say, hats off. Really well done. Like, really well done. But on the other side, I'm like, now I know the game. Now I know the game. And now I'm in a position because I had bad postpartum afterwards, really terrible depression. I had suicidal ideology. I voiced it even at the end to them that this was starting to cause that, a disability. There were so many FMLA violations, but
Oh my. Mhm.
at the end of the day, I'm lucky to be sitting here. Truly, I did not want to be alive anymore. I was going
Mm.
felt that insane. And I'm like, now I have to do something. That is a masterclass that I'm now going to own. Say, thank you for teaching me that. I'm going to teach everyone else what you did so it never happens again.
Woo, girl, let me tell you, you are giving me goosebumps all over, because literally what you're saying is exactly how I felt and what I said in the middle of my experience. I thought, you know what? This cannot go on with anyone else, because I, like you, there was the suicide ideation. I had never, ever, ever been there before. And one night I told my husband, I said, something's going on and I am about to break. I said, I'm about to break and I know this is wrong. I need to go see someone. And so, what was it for you? Was it a therapist who helped you to understand what workplace mobbing and that this really is, you know, in unconscionable behaviors that take place in companies across the nation, across the world? What made you finally go, okay, this is wrong. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak out. I'm going to speak my truth and walk away and help other people, share my story to help other people?
What did it for me was, I think it was about 2 weeks after I had been let go, and I was home with my newborn daughter. And I looked at her, and obviously she doesn't know what's happening. She's a baby. She's just so happy. And I just sat there, and I had a light bulb just went off, and I went, cycles. My daughter is seeing me. My daughter needs to know how this is supposed to go. It was my daughter. It was just looking at her and seeing the world as I want it to be for her. We're not doing any more of this. I'm luckily coming from the generation of cycle breakers, and I'm very proud to be that. And I'm like, if I can break it with me and her, why not there? Like, and I obviously have an amazing therapist now, but I have to tell you, um, I was very nervous to go to a therapist again because the person who told me I was getting fired was my therapist. Because there's a program, some workplaces have programs, counseling programs that you can use. And it was a company called Spring Health. I don't care if they.
Girl, I'm sorry. I'm shaking my head because I'm thinking like, what? Like I need to sit and let that marinate for people to understand the sinisterism, if you will, but just the depravity. That's really what it is. It's a depravity for people to use their positions of power and influence, knowing that she was helping you, but also setting you up at the same time.
And the thing was, it was like, I trusted, they gave us these great resources, amazing. Had this therapist, really actually had enjoyed working with them. But it was the day I came back, as we know, when people often come back from a leave, that's when they're usually filing for termination. Now I know
Girl,
that.
that's been
But
girl.
it was the day
I
after.
was naive. I was naive. I didn't realize that.
I didn't know, well, I didn't know that either. Now I know
Most
because I
people
do
don't.
it
Most
for
people
me.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a tip. People don't realize that the performance improvement plan is really their way of getting your file together so that they can go, oh yeah, you didn't perform well, you gotta go. Like it's all a setup. It's all a
correct.
game for many of these companies and people.
Yeah. So it was the day after I came back, and I got an email from her saying, "Hi, I was informed your benefits are going to be terminated within the next 2 weeks." And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I was
They
fired.
were gone.
I laugh now because it's just insane to think that's
I
even
know.
a thing. Like, I still have the email, and I was just looking at it as I was getting ready to come on. I'm like, this is just mind blowing. And I had said something to another supervisor who was actually an amazing male supervisor who got me through my pregnancy. And they had not informed him that they were going to be letting me go. So he was blindsided as well, but it was just the audacity. So it took me a while to trust again, but it was the therapist I have now is really brilliant, deals with trauma, and specifically diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder from workplace abuse.
PTSD, same here. I had no idea that that was a real thing. I had no idea until I went through it. But people don't realize that the psychological abuse is traumatic. It is severe. It is an illness, a disease that is brought on not by you, but by your coworkers. It's a real thing. This is not, I've had people say, well, just put your big girl panties on. This is just the way it is. That's just the way people are. They woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And I'm like, this is not right. It just isn't right. The core of me knew that it wasn't right. But you had a great therapist who helped you to see the light. And I'm sure that that over time gave you the courage, even once they said you got to go. You're like, okay, I now exactly know what this was that was taking place. I'm no longer naive, that this was a setup.
Yes, and I'm so thankful for that setup now, and it's only because I'm still here. And
Girl, don't be
I'm gonna
gracious.
keep saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it to anyone who will listen. The only reason I'm still here, like I'm still here. Most people don't make it here, and that's the whole point of
Yeah.
this work, right? Most people are not here. The company and a lot of companies, unfortunately, are kind of at peace if you do not exist anymore, because that gives them an out.
Yeah.
I'm very annoying to my previous organization because
Girl, so am I. And I love it.
Me too. I'm like, well, you don't be mad about something you did to yourself. I really don't have any sympathy for that for
I don't
anyone.
either.
You did it.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think that there are times when I have people go, "Oh, Andrea, get over it," or they'll
Yeah.
drop a little nugget on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever it is, and they'll make a statement like, "When are you going to get over it? Just let it go. It's over." And I go, "The more you tell me to stop, the more that I'm going to dig my heels in even deeper because it was wrong. And I don't want this to happen to anybody else." So I know they're listening and watching. And I always say, I hope you learned something so that you can change and
There's
don't do
always
this to
there's
yourself.
always, as they like to say, room for opportunity
Room
by
for
listening
opportunity to
to
improve. I'm gonna put y'all on a pip. This is my pip for you.
and you know what? I said to somebody actually this past week, I was like, it's not about letting it go, I'm letting it give. It needs
Yeah.
to give
Mm,
something. It needs to give back.
yes.
Like if you have all
Mhm.
these this knowledge, if you have gifts to be able to be like you an amazing orator and like things like that, you need to use it. Let it give.
Have to
Let
use
it
it.
give to everyone
Absolutely.
else.
I love that. So you talked to the therapist and the person who you have now who kind of worked and helped you through all of this. At what point, how long did it take for you to get from being let go, understanding what happened to you, and then having the personal fortitude and perseverance to say, okay, now it's time for me to pull myself up and to now speak truth to power, to not just let me give, as you just said, it's time for me to give back. What did that process? How long did that take for you?
It's been a slow burn, I would say, because obviously it causes such damage that it really is a healing process. We know what actually causes physical brain damage that you have to like hopefully heal some of it, right? I will say it probably took about a solid year before I had my core confidence back. Core confidence.
And that and people don't realize that it does. It affects your whole being. It affects your confidence. It affects your self-esteem. It affects how you see yourself and how you see the world because your level of trust has been diminished so far to the point for me now, I'm cool by myself. I mean, honestly, I don't think I'll ever go back and work in corporate America just because the experience for me was so traumatizing. And so I'm like that dog at the kennel where you want a home, you want someone to take you home. But at the end
Mhm.
of the day, sometimes you're like, but when I get with you, what are you going to do to me? Are you going to treat me bad like my previous employer? It's a very serious proposition. And it takes a lot of people quite a while to get to the point where they have 100% confidence and trust in people again. It's very difficult.
I couldn't agree more. And the trust part is really what the whole experience made me change my entire life, to be very frank. I also I went back to the drawing board and
Mhm.
looked at my entire overview of my life. Who was there to support me through that experience? Truthfully, I didn't have a lot. I'm now divorced. Really great father, great person. But that was not what I needed. And I was like, let's change it up. Um, I looked at career path wise, what I was doing. Let's change it up. I don't want to be a middle manager who just raises their hand and doesn't have any possibility of affecting policy and changing policy. Change it up. Now I'm a leader in HR, an organization that allows me not only to change policy, write the policy, but be in
Mhm.
charge of the entire employee life cycle. And I can change it based on what we're seeing,
Your
what people's
experience.
needs are, how to make it healthy,
Mhm.
and also where I get to work in particular, I love we have everyone from entry level all the way up to senior level positions, but it's predominantly our Black and Brown communities. And
Mhm.
for a lot of them, it's their first job or like their
Mhm.
kind of entrance into what would be a more of a corporate America setup.
Yeah.
And we can set them up for success. I can say, anytime you reach out to me in HR, put it in an email. And this is why you need documentation, and then I
Oh my
explained how
gosh.
important that is.
Okay, so I'm just going to say this. This is what we're talking about when we talk about effecting change and using our experiences to make it better for the next person. And I've always said that HR, which naively a lot of people believe that they are there to support the employee, unfortunately, they're not. Systematically, they're not. I was very naive. I thought I'm going to HR, I'm giving this information. They're going to write it, put it in my file. They're going to do something about it and hold people accountable. And over time, I realized that HR is not my friend. And I say that all the time. HR is not your friend. But I believe that HR should be and can be our friend. All of us, including the managers, the supervisors, the presidents of the company, we all need to be on the same page that we are providing a psychologically safe workplace for everyone. And when someone runs afoul of the true values that we espouse as being important to us, then they are the ones who have to go, not the other people. It needs to flip. The pendulum needs to flip around. I love that you are now in this space. You're still in this space to effect change. Are people a little kind of caught off guard when you're like, okay, baby doll, you need to make sure you save this email, keep it in your phone? Like, who does that?
Yes,
Who
they're
HR
very.
does?
I was doing an onboarding recently, and I said, and it was so interesting to see their facial reactions to me,
They're like,
because they're
what?
just like, I said, this is not your mama's or your granddad's HR. Like, this is the new school and the real school and the respectful school of
Yes,
HR. And they
absolutely.
are shocked. And I'm like,
Mhm.
if something's wrong with your pay, I go, it's not a battle. I want you to get paid. Tell me what you believe it is. I will fix it.
What's
I
your
will
value
find a
proposition?
way to
Yes.
make it
Yeah.
happen. They don't understand. They're
You're-
so thrown off by what that is. And I'm like, it's a respect. It's an
Absolutely.
actual respect. You're all just coming to do a job. You should be able to come in, happily, safely do your job and go home. That's all
I
it
just don't think
is.
it's that hard. Like, it's so not hard. I keep telling people we have the solution. We're not trying to come up with a cure for a disease. We have the solution. It's just called being very intentional about the steps that we all need to take to change the environment. We can do this. We can do this. We're just choosing not to. And I love the fact that you have chosen to do that. You are doing it. And the fact that people are like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, Amanda, that just tells you how how pervasive, if you will, the workplace abuse is, because that's what we have assumed. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's supposed to happen. And we're like, no, it cannot be business as usual anymore. It's time for us to change the tide. And I'll just say it, I'm not trying to be political because I'm really talking about this from a principle
Yeah.
standpoint, but we are not going back. We're not
No,
going back.
no.
We're not going back.
We really are not. The world is shifting and the world is changing, and people need
Mhm,
to move forward.
mhm,
I'm going to be a person who will say, I don't expect any change to be a leap over the line, right? You have to stand on both sides of it, a little bit behind, pretty much to give yourself support to push over the line, and
mhm.
into what you're trying to change, because that's the only way it's actually going to happen. You have to acknowledge both sides, but it's happening. It's starting now. And
Mhm.
workplace wise, this needs to be taken seriously because I talk about those cycles, right? Every cycle is connected. What happens to you at work is going to affect what you're going to be like at home.
Say
So,
that. Say that to the
what,
people in the back room. Please say that. I
what
need to
happens
hear
at
that.
work is going to affect what happens at home. And so, if
Yes.
you do not take care of your workforce, dear America, it is
Mhm.
not going to go well at home. That is why everyone looks around saying, what is the state of our country? Why is this happening? Well, look at how you're letting all this negativity control a space that we spend
Absolutely.
90,000 hours of our lives at.
Of
And
our
if you're
lives.
of our lives, if you are
Mhm,
putting that much time and effort in, honey, it's
mhm.
got to be met with the
Right.
safety and the respect that needs to be there and empathy. So that way, when you go home, all the armor comes off. Your families have you. You can enjoy what you're
Yes.
actually making. You want to spend money. You want an economy that flourishes. But if you don't take care of the people going into those jobs to make capitalism happen, which we
Yeah.
could get into a total other conversation about capitalism, but that's not going anywhere.
Work of the wheel.
So you got to
Mhm.
work within it.
Absolutely.
We have to see what we have and how to work within it, work better, work smarter. That's the only way things are actually going to change.
You know, it's interesting. I put up a video of myself a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago or so, on LinkedIn. And I think I also put it on TikTok and some other social media platforms, maybe not Instagram. But I was looking at some pictures of my son, and who just turned 17 in June. And I look at the pictures of when he was that 7, 8, 9, 10-year old, 11 years old, when I was going through the workplace abuse experience. And I started to cry, and it was a combination of grief and sorrow, but yet happiness. The grief and sorrow because I could not remember those moments because my mind was so blocked and so full of what I was going through that I could not enjoy the moments at home with my husband and with my son. So I was going through the motions, but I was not living in the moment. I was not living in the moment. And so I look at pictures sometimes and I grieve and I ask my husband, what happened? I don't remember this. I don't remember it. And so as I was looking at the pictures, I recorded myself and I put it on LinkedIn because I wanted people to understand that workplace abuse is real, but how it literally can rob you of your life. And as you said earlier, we spend 90,000 plus hours in the workplace, more time with people who are not our family, more time with them than we do our family. And so it behooves us to make sure that our home life is balanced with our work life is balanced with our home life. And I'm just so impressed by you and I'm honored by the fact that you are in the trenches doing the hard work, even though I don't really think it's hard. I believe it's easy. It's really, really easy. It's
Because it is.
advocacy, decision making, and having an intention and manifesting that, working through that, and making sure that it happens. But I just love the fact that we are really what I believe imparting to people that it's so important for us to recognize what we're going through in the moment and to make a decision because our decisions will determine what happens to our families. That's real. When we're going through it, our families are also going through it. Our children are going through it, and they deserve better. They deserve better. And I'm just so proud of you that you felt it, you knew it, and you did something about it.
Thank you. And your post actually made me cry because I
Mm.
don't I don't remember the early few months of my daughter. I really don't. Um and it breaks my heart. Like it really does when those photos pop up because I love when those videos show up that they make and it's like, "Oh, I didn't ask for this, but
Yeah.
here are Cassandra's early days." And I look and I remember what was happening that day though. I remember
Yeah.
I wanted to
I
work that
know.
day.
We remember
I
the
remember I
trauma.
was
Don't we
stressed.
remember the trauma? Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's so sad because I lived in a beautiful home at the time right by the water, and I'm like, I didn't even get to enjoy it when she was born, and I am able to be over the resentment now, and just have, like, the natural grieving process, but I just
Yeah.
never want that for anyone else, and there are so
Yeah.
many amazing people that I even worked with at that company I'm still close friends with, and actually who did their best, truly, to try to protect me through it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
themselves, and I hate for anyone to have to try to play that game because you
Yeah.
wanna reach out and help, but what about your retirement? What about, like, this is just it's so toxic and it disintegrates everything, and that's what leads to the depression and high turnover rates and all of the above. I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm very thankful for the moments I have now, and I will never not have those moments ever with my daughter again. I always will be present, and if there's anything ever in my life that I feel is taking me out of it, it's off the table.
Off the table. Absolutely. I've had to make some very, very difficult, hard decisions about that as well since I've left, where there have been opportunities that have come my way. And either the environment didn't feel good based on conversations and interactions with some of the higher ups, and or I realized that I was going to be putting myself back in an environment that possibly could be toxic, but also would take me away from my family. And like you, if it's not a good fit, and I feel that in that moment, kind of like that visceral reaction that I'm going to be putting myself back in a place that isn't healthy, it is hard stop, no. And I am able to say no as a complete sentence, just no, without any explanation, which is where I was not before in my life earlier. And so, kind of like you, I'm so grateful now that I've gone through the journey and still going through it because I think I always will from an emotional standpoint. But I'm at a place where I can look back and I really want to say thank you to them. Thank you. And I know that sounds weird, but in the midst of the pain and the strife and the journey of trying to heal, there are moments when I say, y'all, I want to thank you. I want to send you all like a big love basket. I don't know,
All
some
the
kind of
time.
I want to cater something for you guys because I want you to know that I'll never forget, but I want you to know that I survived and I'm doing better. I'm living my better than best life thanks to you. So while you were doing harm to me and it hurt, don't get me wrong, you actually were my footstools to freedom. You are my
True.
footstools to freedom, my
Mm,
footstools to a better life, my footstools to be part of this new movement of good trouble for change. And that's what I believe we are all meant to do here on earth, is to leave it better than what we received, to leave it better than what we inherited. And as you said earlier, we can't leave this for our children to have to go through. We have to find a way to make a change. Let's talk about the fact that now I see your shirt that you have on, the End Workplace Abuse shirt. Yes. And it looks so lovely on you. You look
thank
lovely.
you.
How did you get connected? You're welcome. How did you get connected to End Workplace Abuse? Because, we could talk about the trauma, and it is important for us to talk about it. But at the end of the day, I tell people this is all about solutions. This is all about change. This is how do we give back and use our experiences to make a change so that we make it better for other people. How did you get involved with EWA? Talk about that. Like, what happened? You just
Absolutely.
sit home and you on Facebook, or like what happened? Give me that
Uh,
detail. I want to know.
it was a deep dive of the lovely interwebs. I was sitting around truly, and my adoptive father, who passed away when I was 18, he always would say though, like, you can be upset and have coulda, woulda, shouldas, but what are you going to do about it? And so I sat there and I was like, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do? And I really did
I
a
can't
deep
change it because it happened.
and I realized, because everyone kept saying you need a lawyer, a lawyer, a lawyer. I'm like, the law. There's something with the law, because everything I'm seeing is really hard case to prosecute. Like, I had actually a pretty good case, but I was not in any shape to honestly go through it at the time. But I
It's a
was
lot.
like, yeah, and I was like, but something has to change the law. And then I did a deep dive, and then came up Vicky and Deb's amazing work, and the Workplace Psychological Safety Act. And I said, huh, now that's something. So I reached out to them just via email saying, what is this bill? This is what I've gone through. This is what I'm seeking to help with, because we need law that can actually support people. And they were like, you're our kind of person. If you can organize, if you can understand, and you want to maybe lead, we have availability. I had moved from Connecticut, from where my workplace abuse had happened, to Michigan. And I was like, you know what? I have high connections in both. I'm going to take on both. I'm just going to see where it goes. And if I can just put a little something together. And what I have found is we are building momentum very quickly, especially here in Michigan. That is a completely blue state, from top to bottom, Senate, House, and governor.
Governor.
Yeah, like the entire state is very pro labor, and pro high quality protections, as is Connecticut, has really great protections for their workers and employees. So both states are really trying to make a push this year, and I'm just so honored and happy to be a part of it. We're throwing a big event in conjunction with this great fitness organization called City Sweat Club that was started by a dear friend of mine, Gabrielle Wilson, and it was founded by her on the back of her workplace abuse experience, where she just decided to slowly step away from it and do her own thing. She said, I've had it with multiple fitness companies, and I just need to do something for the community. And it has exploded. The City Sweat Club has really become a juggernaut that went from a run that happened once a week at the Nike store downtown Detroit to multiple events throughout the week, book drives for back to school, just true things helping the community. So we're going to host an event. We're going to have lots of great legislatures. City officials are invited, senators, looking to lock in that sponsorship as soon as possible this fall.
We continue our conversation next week with what they're doing in Michigan to pass the Workplace Psychological Safety Act. And join Amanda and the delegation from End Workplace Abuse as they knock out workplace abuse in the state of Michigan. State and local legislators will be on hand there in Detroit, Michigan on Sunday, September 29th, along with other dignitaries and celebrities. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.